Hello mi gente and welcome back to Nata Knows Best. So today we are making Puerto Rican chuletas. If you're wondering what chuletas are, they are Puerto Rican style pork chops. Now these pork chops are marinated for hours in our homemade Puerto Rican sofrito along with plenty of herbs and spices. Once these babies are cooked, these pork chops are so juicy. So let's get into it. So the key to a really good Puerto Rican chuleta is obviously your cut of meat. So here I have a center cut pork chop that still has the bone in it. And if you guys look closely, you'll notice that it has a decent amount of marbling. If you've ever worked with pork before, you know that it is easy to overcook. So by buying a piece of pork that has a decent amount of marbling, it almost guarantees that you're going to have a juicy little pork chop, because marbling equals fat and fat equals flavor, at least when it comes to pork chops. So make sure you get the right cut of your pork chops. And to marinate our chuletas, we're going to start with our homemade sofrito. If you guys are new here and you don't know what sofrito is, it's pretty much a very popular Puerto Rican condiment that is used to build the flavor base for a lot of recipes. Pretty much every single Puerto Rican recipe that I've ever posted includes my sofrito recipe. So if you haven't seen that recipe, I'll link it at the top right here for you guys. So here I have a Ziploc bag within a bowl where I'm going to add our marinade. Here I have our sofrito. This is frozen. If you guys watch my sofrito recipe, you'll notice I make it in large batches and then keep it in the freezer for whenever I need it. In addition to the sofrito, I'm also going to add some white vinegar. The white vinegar helps in tenderizing our pork. I'm also going to add some olive oil. And then here I have a mixture of our seasonings. These are just a combination of some of my favorite seasonings. I know some of you may be wondering, like, can I marinate the pork in maybe a store-bought marinade? Now, some of you guys might have mojo, which is a good option if you are feeling lazy, but in true Puerto Rican fashion, I want to make this from scratch, so I will be making the marinade from scratch and using my favorite seasonings. So here I have a combination of oregano, salt, pepper, adobo, garlic powder, and I'm going to add it to our meat. And of course, another one of my favorite spices that I always add in my food is sazon with achote. Because I only have 2 chuletas here, I'm only gonna use half of a packet, but if you were doubling this recipe, you would use the full packets. This always gives Puerto Rican food a beautiful color because of the achote powder. If you guys are looking for the exact recipe and measurements for the seasonings that I'm going to add, I will link my recipe to my website, which is nataknowsbest.com, so go ahead and check that out. Now that we finished adding all of our marinated ingredients, I'm gonna go ahead and pull our chuletas out of the bowl. And I'm gonna give them a little massage. The great thing about making the marinade in a bag, it just really helps further penetrate those flavors into the meat, because you're kind of just like giving it a little massage. It's like almost therapeutic, but it does help penetrate those flavors. So now that we've finished giving it a little massage, I'm going to zip up our bag and I'm going to put our chuletas in the fridge to continue marinating for about 2 more hours. I don't recommend leaving your pork in there for longer than 2 hours, just because this marinade does contain the vinegar, and the vinegar is meant to just tenderize the meat. It's not supposed to give the meat too much flavor, so you don't want to overpower the meat with the vinegar by keeping it in the fridge for too long. So just be careful with how long you have it in there. So our chuletas are done marinating, so I'm gonna go ahead and start the frying process. Here I have a skillet that's heating to medium-high heat. I have a little bit of olive oil in it. And I'm going to add our chuleta. So there are two main ways that you can cook your chuleta. Fry it entirely on the skillet, or you could do it half on the skillet and then finish it off in the oven. Today I'm going to be frying it as you see. And to make sure that we don't overcook our chuleta, keep in mind that you want to cook it about 4 to 5 minutes on each side. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and give it a flip. Once your chuletas are done cooking, you want to remove them from the heat and allow them to rest for about 10 minutes. Alright mi gente, there you have it. That's how I make Puerto Rican chuletas, aka pork chops. I have one right here that I already cut up. I'm gonna take my first bite. If you guys only knew how juicy this was. Honestly, I have to show you a close-up. But this is so juicy and so delicious. That marinade absolutely tastes delicious. And of course, you already know why it tastes delicious. It's because it includes my homemade Puerto Rican sofrito. You guys don't understand, sofrito is king when it comes to all of these flavors. It really highlights everything and takes things to a whole nother level. If you guys like this recipe, I will go ahead and link it to my playlist, which is Nata Knows Boricua. This is a playlist that's dedicated to all of my favorite Puerto Rican dishes. So if you're looking for a good arroz con gandules, maybe a dessert like coquito, maybe tembleque, empanadillas, whatever you're looking for, you can more than likely find it on that playlist. So go check that out. Remember, I will also be linking this recipe to my website, which is nataknowsbest.com. Stay tuned for next week for another delicious recipe. And as always, mi gente, thank you so much for watching Nata Knows Best.